that gave me an eye opener that most people actually trading the stock market really have no clue what they're doing. Like, they're just, you can see somebody, whether they're on TV, whether you meet them, they're going to give you that next hot tip, stock tip. And when I went in there, I was getting nothing but hot stock tips all day. They're like, oh, you got to do this one. And then somebody else is trading options. And you're like, what's an option? And, okay, yeah, I'll take 2,000 options. It was crazy.
All right. Welcome everyone to the RLT PIVOT Podcast. My name is Tracy and I welcome you to another episode. Today, I am joined by a guest. He is not my co-host today. Mr. Dan Janson is the guest of today's episode, and we are going to be talking everything Dan. So Dan, welcome. Thank you for joining me. How are you?
I honestly don't know why we don't do more episodes of everything Dan. I don't, how do we miss this one before? Not sure.
I really don't know. I mean, we've done snippets of Dan, but never everything Dan. So
it's everything Dan. It's a good concept. It's a good concept. It's going to catch on.
You like the title?
I do. Everything Dan. Perfect.
All right. Well, if our listeners have been following along for the last 3 years, my goodness, I can't believe it's been 3 years. You and I have been doing this that long. And if they'd been following along, they can probably get little bits of your story going in and out of each episode. And if they were taking notes, maybe they would be able to piece it all together so they have a little book about Dan. Today's episode, I kind of want to throw it all out there. I'd like to start with, because I know that you used to work for a prop firm. I would like to know your initial, I guess, journey into the world of stock trading.
So my first stock brokerage account ever was Scottrade. You remember Scottrade? Did that make its way to Canada?
Not that I know of, no.
We used to have commercials with Scottrade where they, like, the CEO was just flying around helicopters all day, and like that was like the entire commercial, and just said like Scottrade on it. So that was the first broker I ever had. I was actually interning with MetLife at the time. And so the first, I can't remember the first stock I ever purchased, but that was the first broker I ever got. Scottrade ended up getting bought out by, I think, Ally Bank. So, but yeah, so that was the first brokerage I ever got. First time I was looking at stocks, and I was like, okay, let me pick up some shares of XYZ, whatever it was. And I was just completely green to the entire industry and whatever was involved, but it was interesting, right? It was just, even though it was very small shares and just a couple shares here and there, that was like the beginning for me to be like, yeah, you know what? I kind of like trading stocks. I kind of like being involved in the market. So that was the beginning, and that was before the prop firm. And then I did some things. I was still in school at the time too. So I was like a long time ago.
So still in school, but why? Why then would you even get a brokerage? Like what attracted you there?
Well, so when I was interning with MetLife, we were talking about financial planning and there was a lot of other seasoned people in the insurance field and stuff like that. So they would all kind of be talking about stocks, and we'd have meetings where how to plan for your future, why have life insurance, why have disability. We would talk, there's some brokers there that would handle like 401ks and mutual funds and things like that. So we would cover, and all these guys were kind of not glued the same way we are as day traders, but they would have a good sense of what's going on in the markets. And for me, and there was another intern, he was same age, still good friends with him now, but he was starting to get into it too. So it was just kind of something that we just got into and found some interest in, and I was like, all right, yeah, I kind of like the stock thing, right? And before that, and this is going back to probably 8th grade, probably like 6th grade, we did one of those like stock competitions where it was like, all fake money, and you're in there for a semester and you're kind of picking stocks. And we were looking at like newspapers back then, looking at like Caterpillar stock price and all this stuff. So that was like my first initiation into the stock market. Didn't really touch it since, but I was like, man, this is fun, even back in the day.
Yeah.
And then when I got into it, there was real money involved, and it just kind of grew on me. But so I went from that, and again, even when I was interning, I was still in college. After college, I started working for a prop firm in Long Island, which it was a incredible experience for both good things and bad things. So it was like You show up to an office before the market, I think, so the market opens at 9:30. We were there like 8 a.m. You walk in, there's like desks with computers, everyone's kind of hanging out. And then you'd have like one guy who kind of knows what he's supposed to be doing. And he's like shouting out things like, oh yeah, I'm going to buy this Mosaic. I'm going to buy whatever company it was. And we would just be like jumping on trades. And then if anybody else saw set up. So you would learn stuff, but there was no education. It was like, you bring your own money, they prop you up, 10x, whatever your money is. And you're sitting there inexperienced with no knowledge of the market, really just brand new to everything. You're like, yeah, I like this stock. And people going crazy. There's no risk. It was nuts. And the whole office was filled with this. So, and they make their money off, of course, being a prop firm on how many trades you do and transactions. So they didn't really care if you made money or lost. But the one guy in the back, he was shouting out something, the seasoned guy, he was experienced. He kind of knew what he was doing, but in the same sense, it was like what he was doing shouldn't be what you were doing, right? It was like different size account. He was older at that point. I was still younger. And it was just there was people there that was 50, 60 years old. There was 21-year-olds, and there's just a whole chaotic mess of like so I'll say it was good because it was a great experience to have. It was bad because it was the Wild West of trading. So
they didn't even have any rules.
I don't even think they're around anymore, but what's that?
Really? They didn't even have any rules for you to follow? So
rules.
When they prop you up, none of their money was at risk. It was just all your money.
Yeah, so that's the problem with prop accounts.
Okay.
Funded accounts are a little bit different. Prop accounts, if you go in with, let's say you go in with $5,000, which I think is what I started with the prop firm. So you're sitting there with $5,000 of your own money. You're able to trade $50,000 worth of stock, right? So there's a lot of margin involved with what you're doing. But so if you hit a trade, you're up $800, $900, $1,000. Great, fantastic. Because the next day you show up, you have even more leverage. But if you lose, so if I start with 5,000, my first trade, I lose $500, and I go home, call it quits for the day. I come back the next day. They're 10xing 4,500. They take that 500 from me, not from the overall budget. So now technically I only lost $500, but I have $5,000 less buying power. So you have to be pretty spot on. You have to be able to kind of be a sniper in the market and really know how to maintain, which they don't teach you anything. There was no education on that. It's like, if you run out, just re-up and throw some more money in. And that's essentially what it was. But again, it was a good experience, but prop firms are very, very tough to make money because of the leverage, and they're not gonna. When you lose, you don't lose their money. You lose yours. Yeah.
Well, what would be 3 takeaways that you had from working in the prop firm that's helping you now in your current trading?
3 takeaways from that prop firm?
Yeah. Or the experience, not necessarily from the prop firm, but the experience of working in a prop firm.
Number 1 is that gave me an eye opener that most people actually trading the stock market really have no clue what they're doing. Right? They're just, you can see somebody, whether they're on TV, whether you meet them, they're going to give you that next hot stock tip. And when I went in there, I was getting nothing but hot stock tips all day. They're like, oh, you got to do this one. And then somebody else is trading options, and you're like, what's an option? And, okay, yeah, I'll take 2,000 options. It was crazy. But that'd be the one is like the lack of knowledge. And again, there was people 50 years old, 60 years old, people that were much older than me at this point, that you would just like, you go in and you see somebody with gray hair. You're like, this guy's got to be doing this for a while. This guy's got to know what he's doing. And they have the same education that I had as a 21-year-old and trying to dance around the stock market. So it was different in that sense. But a lot of these retail traders, and again, most of the market is made up from hedge funds and mutual funds and things like that. There's only 3-4% of retail traders, which is a lot of volume and a lot of people in the market. But most of those people have no clue what they're doing, right? And they're just so eager to just jump on what's the next hot stock, and can I get into another GameStop type scenario, or whatever the case is. And like, you really understand, like, yeah, you could hit some trades, but nobody keeps their money, right? And it's just understanding the process, I think, was the biggest takeaway. So just really understanding, like, and seeing people actually sit there at the computers and day trade, that to me hit home a lot, where it was like, oh, okay, this is really, I think anybody could learn how to do this, but nobody really, especially at that time, nobody really wanted to really get involved. Now I see it's a some people want to learn, and there's a whole bunch of people that still just sign me up for the latest stock tips, and I'm like, you don't want to know why? And like, no, just sign. Okay, so there's a different approach.
Yeah.
What else did I learn? I learned I don't like prop funds, prop accounts.
Okay.
Because you're essentially the client in that situation. Like they're not there to help you. They don't care what happens to you. Just so you kind of learn what to stay away from. And then the third thing I would say to take away from is a good question. The third one I would take away would be how to stay in the game. I would say most of the people that I traded with at the prop firm, I can't speak for all of them, but I say most of them have thrown the towel in and quit.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say there was a lot of people who were dedicated, really love trading, and I would imagine I still talk to one or two, and they're still trading. I'd say vast majority in the door, out the door, lost the money, and they called it quits. And it just kind of shows you, like, the longer you're in the game, the more successful you'll actually be. But there's going to be bumps up and down both ways. So
what was the transition from that to where you are now, basically, that kept you from being one of the ones that threw in the towel to learning the lessons that you needed and being successful?
I'm stubborn. That's it.
That's it. You're just stubborn.
No, I would say there's a passion for making money, and there's a passion for trading.
Okay.
And I think there's a big difference between the two, where if my passion was to make money, there's 1,000 ways I could go with my career, my life. There's a lot of opportunities.
Yep.
I think I fall in more of the camp of I have a passion for trading. I like to understand kind of what's happening in the market. I like to understand the technicals. I like to understand kind of the bigger picture of how everything works, and then down to like a micro level. I like that aspect of it. And I think that I see people that are trading, and I do see successful people trading. And this is back in the day. I know people who do very well trading. And I'm like, if they could figure it out, I could figure it out. Right. So to me, I think that was something that it's just like a little puzzle. Once you start connecting the pieces, once that little light bulb goes off, once you get that aha moment, I think for me, that's I was like, I could figure this thing out. There's no way the market's going to beat me. So it was just one of those things where you just kind of stay in the game. And I mean, I still learning something new every day. So there's always something new to really discover in the market.
Mm-hmm. That's excellent. So what actually forced you out of the prop firm?
I think I got a car crash. That was essentially what happened. So yeah, I totaled the car when I was like 21, and I just couldn't get to the office. So I was like, all right. That was it. And then I still had a computer at the house, but it just wasn't the same. So
right.
It was just, especially being that new to the industry, it wasn't the boss's car. Yeah, it was just tough to get to the office, and then I tried to do it from home. It just wasn't the same excitement, same like energy, and there was zero people to ask questions to. So I slowed down on that and kind of picked up on other opportunities. I started working at Mass Mutual for a while, so stayed in the financial game for a bit, but just kind of a different aspect of it for that point.
Gotcha. So what led you back into trading world?
I would say I've never left specifically. I just slowed down a lot.
Right. So, okay. So what brought you back into it full time?
Probably when I went. So I owned I still have it, still do events, but I own a entertainment company. So I was doing that full time. I had a bunch of jobs, sales jobs, all this stuff in between, but I was doing this entertainment business since I was 16. It just kept growing. People kept calling, and it kind of grew to the point where I'm like, you know what, I'm making more money on the entertainment thing than I was doing a sales job that had great base pay, pretty good commission structure. I was top of the company in sales. Like it was like, it wasn't even, but I'm still doing the entertainment thing. So I was working at that point Monday through Friday doing sales, doing gigs, entertainment, stuff like that. And I'm sitting back. I'm like, I'm working myself too hard. So I started to switch over, and I was like, I'm making more money doing the entertainment business. Let me do that. And then after like a month of just straight doing that, I was like, I'm bored during the week now. Like now I got Monday through Friday free. And then that's kind of when I started to tiptoe back into the markets more heavily and start trading. take more education and kind of learn the process.
Right.
So I think that got me into like more of a transition into the full time.
Gotcha. So up until this point, you really didn't have a mentor. You didn't have any kind of education, and the experience that you were getting was just hands-on. What kind of, I guess, helped you develop your strategies and come into yourself as a trader?
I would say I didn't really come into myself as a trader until I had a mentor, which would be Jeremy.
Okay.
Everything else, it was just piecing everything together. It was the straight school of hard knocks, the entire process.
School of pain.
School of pain. And I would get better and better, and I would know what I would like to see. I know what I would look for. But then just having that extra mentor like Jeremy was have a plan, be disciplined, just repeat the process. It's okay. Trading should be more boring. And I was looking for excitement all the time, right? Don't trade every day if you don't see anything. Like, you don't have to. And just seeing somebody who is already successful doing it, I would say I can't really say that I was the trader that I am today before Jeremy.
Gotcha. How did you stumble across recognizing that you needed a mentor and even finding one?
Oh, I didn't, because I'm stubborn. I told you that. I'm stubborn. No, I was.
Did he seek you out?
That guy started texting me out of nowhere. No,
yeah.
He came up for Thanksgiving. No,
Santa
I would
Claus?
say, yeah, I wasn't looking for. I will honestly say I was not looking for a mentor. I would say I was probably looking more for like on the continued search for like how to trade the market, how to understand the market, and then I kind of stumbled upon Jeremy, and then just taking the classes and really starting to understand more about trading through the R system, how RLT does it. That again, I wasn't looking for a mentor, but then I was able to talk to him, and he picks up his phone, and you're like, this is weird. Like, I don't know. Is this normal?
He gives out your phone number, his phone number.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it wasn't like I need help in the market. I was just kind of on a search to be a better trader.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Jeremy kind of answered a lot of the questions of like how to actually be a better trader, how to stay focused, disciplined. And then I was like, and it was just kind of one of those things that developed where I was like, yeah, he's definitely a mentor to me for trading.
Right. What was the biggest change or obstacle that you had to overcome in order to kind of, I guess, make that hurdle?
I would say for me, it would be forgetting everything I learned at the prop firm.
Okay.
Right. Where it was just seeing how they traded. And like some of the guys would be up a lot of money one day, they're down a lot the next. And I'm like, that should be normal.
Mm-hmm.
When I met Jeremy, he's more about consistency. And that was the biggest hurt, because I knew just from researching a lot and doing a lot of homework on everything. I knew about the technicals. I knew about the candles. I knew a lot about the basic stuff, how things kind of work. Jeremy helped, I think, piece it together. Mm-hmm. And it was kind of when he mentioned the word consistently profitable, that I'm like, yeah, it's pretty easy to actually make money in the market. It's actually really not hard. Keeping it is the actual hard problem, right? And I think most people that go on Twitter or stock twits or whatever, and they're like, hey, on Facebook, whatever, I'm up $10,000 today. You're like, great, but then they don't tell you like I'm still down $50,000 from yesterday. So you only get one side of the story, but learning to become consistently profitable is definitely more important than making money on any given day.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, absolutely. I guess one of the things that I'm curious about is, a lot of times we look back and think, oh, we have that regret, that resentment, or that regret about our journey and our path. And I'm just curious, because you've mentioned that you're stubborn. And do you think
that's what my wife tells me anyway? So.
Do you think that had you had mentorship earlier, would it have made a difference, or did you need to go through those hard knocks to open yourself or break yourself up enough to be receptive to mentorship later on?
That's a good question. Only because would I've loved to have a mentor earlier on? Absolutely. I don't know how that would have, like, I'm happy now, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I went on the road of hard knocks first. I learned a lot, and I can't really go back and try to picture myself unlearning what I've learned, and I can't see how that, I don't know how that would have worked.
Mm-hmm.
Would it have made sense to have a mentor early? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But I also never knew I was going to be a full-time trader either. Like I never, when you apply to college, right? They ask you like what you want to do, and you kind of pick your major, and some people are undecided and all this stuff. Like I was a marketing major, I was a mass communication major. I was like, I guess I got to do, if I'm going to college for this, I might as well do something in business, do something in sales, like that's just, well, that's what I went to school for. I never really thought like I should be a professional day trader, like, ever. So had I would have thought about that when I was 18, when I first started trading, or 17, whatever age I was, if I thought about it then of like, man, I love this so much, I want to do this full time, I probably would have seeked out a mentor earlier.
Mm-hmm.
But that nobody gave me that as an option of like, by the way, you can also just full time day trade, and you're like that wasn't a career, right? So it's hard for me to go back and shift things and say, yeah, this is what would have happened if this happened. I don't know. I just know the road that kind of took me to where I'm at now.
Mm-hmm. No, fair enough. I mean, it's definitely a hypothetical question, right? But I mean, some people can learn to appreciate. I guess that's kind of why I'm asking the question, because I want other people thinking about the fact that we are the sum of our journey, and we are where we are because of that. And we can change the way that we think about our past and our experiences and all that, and be grateful for them, because it does shape us into where we are. And I love the fact that you said that you're happy now. I think that's really pivotal and key. And yeah, no, I just appreciate that. So thank you.
Still stubborn, just happy.
Still stubborn, just happy.
Can't,
How
can't,
long did
can't
it
shake
take?
everything.
How long did it take you to kind of develop the strategies and systems that you're currently using and implementing in your trading right now?
Dang, that's a good question. I almost want to throw it back to when I first started trading, because all my systems are kind of like, for my style, from what I learned, like that started from the first time that I, started trading, really. So just the basics of learning. When would I say it got more polished? I'd say probably, I don't know, 5, 6 years ago is when probably about 6 years ago is when I started becoming consistently profitable in markets.
Okay.
And that's when I started to really look at the markets more and more, and really try to get more involved, and say, okay, I want to shift more time to this. So I think it was more of probably about 6 years ago is when I took me to really put together the system, and polish it, and work on it, and build on it, and back trade on it. Before that, I mean, I don't even know if back trading existed when I started trading, right? So
Yeah.
I might as
Yeah.
well go back to newspaper day and look at the look at the stocks like in sixth grade. But yeah, I don't know. I would say it's more of a profound system, more of a consistently profitable system, probably 6 years ago.
What encouraged you to look into or what attracted you, I guess I should say, to Elliot Wave? Because that's primarily what you use, right? The Elliot Wave theory. And
yeah, so I'll use, I mean, the first thing I've looked at, and I think a lot of traders will look at RSI.
okay.
I don't know why. I don't know how that's like the most common introduction to the stock market. But I think the first thing I ever looked at was like RSI, and all I would do is just, hey, it's low, I'm going to try to buy here. Oh, it's too high, I'm going to try to sell or short. And that was my introduction. Elliot Wave probably came years later,
Mm-hmm.
but Elliot Wave was when I started to really understand that there's people behind the candles, right?
Mm.
Well, sometimes algos, but for the most part, someone's got to program those algos. Just understanding that the candles, they don't really mean dollars, they mean sentiment. That was a shift that really turned me on to the Elliot Wave, that I was like, if you could start to understand how people think, or at least how they express emotions throughout the day, throughout the stock market, that allows you to be more patient. That allows you to not jump into trades as soon as maybe you would have before, and just kind of let a full cycle play out, to attempt to try to play some kind of reversal, or just try to understand where you are in the market. So I'll use Elliot Wave still all the time. But yeah, it was more of really when it clicked that these aren't candles, these are people. right? And if you could understand how you would act in this situation, or at least how you would think in the situation, if you're the one losing all that money, that allows you to kind of sit back and say, okay, when's the real reversal come in? Like, how does the stock market actually work? And once you get a grasp on that, I think it took a while to really. It's one thing to learn the Elliot Wave. It's a different thing to implement Elliot Wave into trades, unless you do it over and over and over again and just be like, I think this is the bottom, and nope, that's not. I'm wrong. Am I missing a wave? And once you start looking at it more, you start to see it a little bit.
Gotcha. I loved what you just said there, that the candles are sentiment. I think that was just like a huge eye-opening experience. Like, I'm hoping some of our listeners heard what you just said. If you didn't, please rewind this section and listen to it again, because that is huge. Understanding and changing that perspective and seeing that candles are sentiment. Good on you, Dan. Really good on you. That's just.
And if you're listening up until this point, this is it. It goes downhill from this point. So you might as well. That's all I got. Tip your waitress.
Yeah, no. I want you to tell us what your favorite setups are.